Hey guys, so we are off to the start of a new week, and you just knew that I would be doing a video covering this. I would say, I can't believe it, but I can believe it. And to be honest with you, it wasn't actually that unexpected. Of course, we never know what stunt Meghan is going to pull, but we know guaranteed synchronized watches. It's Prince Louis's birthday, something's coming, and to be fair, this one I wasn't expecting, but the quick turnaround and the backlash that has followed has been even more of a bigger surprise for me, really. It has definitely not gone the way that I think the Montecito camp really saw it going down. First of all, let's talk about the fact that you have got an auntie and uncle whose nephew was turning 5, and they have felt the need to do a publicity stunt to overshadow it. I don't know how much Harry's involvement is with it, but whilst they are still a 2, they can both be blamed for this. Now, some people could say it's just a coincidence, but there's no coincidences when it comes to Meghan. And this one, oh come on, this one was so obvious. The elusive Meghan who had moved to Montecito that no one had seen, and the even more elusive Archie that no one had ever seen, because obviously Netflix had come out at this point, they just randomly got caught. Meghan walking him to school, bearing in mind he was like 2.5 years old, and there just happened to be waiting paparazzi. Meghan doesn't look upset. She looks like she's smiling. You can just about see the curves of her grin behind her mask. Even if she was taking him to nursery rather than school, it would be an exclusive Montecito one, that you drive into. They have security with them at all times. This was quite clearly a set-up paparazzi stunt. And guess who wasn't in the country? The unsuspecting father, Harry. Funny, isn't it, how when Harry's always out of the country, Meghan just manages to get caught with their child doing a pap stroll. Oh, sorry, she didn't know they were in the bushes, of course. Then we had Prince Louis's 4th birthday. So what do we have then? Well, we had lots of stuff going on with Harry and Meghan. You think that would have been enough coverage because the fact it was the Invictus Games weeks before. You would have thought she's had her face in the newspapers enough. No, a story drops that they are being invited to stand on the balcony with the Queen and all of the royals, which of course the public were angry about. And it went back and forth. And as it turns out, they weren't invited to come onto the balcony. They weren't invited to the dinner. They weren't invited to lots of things, but by planting that story, they knew that it would cause lots of people, much like the Coronation and them leaving their RSVP till really late. It caused a bit of a hoo-ha, and the palace actually stepped in and said, it is just senior working royals that will appear on the balcony. So we knew something was brewing. We knew she was going to do something. As I said, synchronized watches, but I don't think many of us were expecting another Dear Daddy letter. This time it's not real daddy, this time it's King Daddy. Thankfully though, majority of people saw it for the pathetic stunt that it was, and they just went with the fact that we had some lovely new photographs taken by photographer Millie Pilkington of the young Prince Louis and his mother, the Princess of Wales, Catherine. And he looks absolutely gorgeous. They produce genetically gorgeous children, don't they? They remind me of looking through a catalogue and you have this perfect, beautiful family. Now, someone did tell me on social media that reads all into algorithms and things that are trending and stuff. The latest stunt did not actually work, and Prince Louis was far more talked about and the photos were shared more than this story initially was. Now, on top of that, we did have a photograph that was actually taken by Catherine, the Princess of Wales, of the Queen, and it was released on her what would have been her 97th birthday, her first birthday since her passing, and it was her with her 2 youngest grandchildren. That's Lady Louise and James, the Earl of Wessex, who, as I said recently, has taken on his father's title now, and then all of the great grandchildren. So I'm going to read them out from left to right. We have Lena Tyndall, then Prince George, Princess Charlotte, Isla Phillips, and then Prince Louis. Then sitting on the sofa from right to left, we have Savannah Phillips, of course, Her Majesty, Mia Tyndall, who was holding her younger brother, Lucas Tyndall. And it made for an absolutely beautiful photograph. You could see that the Queen's health was definitely in decline at this point, but I just really love the fact that the royal family did agree to share this with the public. Many of us do really miss the Queen, and I thought it was a very nice way to remember her, as I said, on what was her first birthday since she's passed. Now, of course, as this beautiful photograph was shared, naturally you had the usual suspects start shouting from the rooftops because a couple of little faces were not included. Oh, it's only the white great-grandchildren, isn't it? The black great-grandchildren are aired out of history. Can't have them in there. And you think to yourself, right, I'm not getting stuck into this whole racism game anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm over it. Let's not pretend. Those children are whiter than snow. In fact, if you actually look at most of their cousins probably hold a deeper tan. This has got nothing to do with racism. It's just for the simple fact that they have got their father's ginger gene. Fair-skinned children with red hair, depending on which photograph you actually see and what footage they release on Netflix, because those children's hair colours does seem to change a lot, but then so does Harry's. Now, for those people that are screaming, oh, the unfairness of it all, firstly, the children do not live in this country. Secondly, the Queen had actually invited, it was released to the media at the time, the fact that this was a get-together for all of the children. The Queen had asked for a sleepover for all of the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren, and Harry and Meghan had declined. No shocker there, because to be fair, like I said, it's not like they just live up the road. They live in California, and they've never bothered to spend any time with the Queen since she got the ring on the finger and then gave birth to Archie. You know, they didn't go see them at Christmas, they didn't go see them in summer, Sandringham and Balmoral. They turned down every single invite to see the Queen, and like I keep telling people, which is really shows their true nature, was the fact that they turned down to see the Queen 3 days before she died. Now, my third point about this photograph is you also have two other great-grandchildren that are not there. You have Princess Beatrice and Edo's daughter, baby Sienna, and then you have also Princess Eugenie and her husband Jack's son, August. There could be multiple reasons why their children weren't there, anything from going on holiday, spending time with other family members. It's quite a large family, and to try and coordinate everyone at the same time with children of different ages, especially so young, it's just people making a fuss over nothing, and it's just an excuse to stir the pot. As I said, the fact that Meghan and Harry could have brought their children over to spend time with the Queen in her final year, they chose not to, and that is because I believe vengeance is Meghan's middle name. So let's talk about this letter. The letter has not been seen publicly, okay? So, some people say if there's no photograph, it didn't happen. But the palace has reportedly fired off legal warnings to the Telegraph to tread very carefully. And Meghan, which I'll come to later, has doubled down and confirmed that there was in fact correspondence. Now, as you can see here, this was taken up my local shop, and you can see that there is only one newspaper that managed to run this story, which means it's an exclusive, and a source went to the Telegraph. Now, the Telegraph is one of the very, very, very few newspapers left that Harry and Meghan have never sued. The Telegraph is also the only UK newspaper to have gone over to Montecito, been invited into their home, and Harry seems quite friendly with. Remember, there are no coincidences when it comes to this couple. Now, another thing that flagged up with me as well, I'm sure it did most of you, is where have we seen this before? A Dear Daddy letter that got leaked exclusively by 5 friends of Meghan's. Now this letter, which surely only Meghan and Charles and their nearest and dearest should know about, who is the source that leaked? Meghan has wiped her hands of it, but at the same time, she's also incriminated herself. But of course, the big one is the fact it's a mere, 2 weeks away from the coronation. So it's stirring up that old racism, race baiting pot just in time. And it also happens to coincide with Harry saying that he is attending all by himself. So not only have Sussex Squad, their fan base, been saying that it shows that Harry's a pretty shitty husband by not standing by his wife, now you've had this come out, which is also basically saying that Meghan's not going because she didn't get a satisfactory enough response from the king with regards to her being neglected by the royal family to the point of suicide, or address her concerns of unconscious bias. Obviously, this relates to the so-called royal racist who dared to wonder what Harry and Meghan's unborn child might look like. So it makes Charles look shitty. It makes, again, Harry look shitty for the fact that he's going. And if Meghan wasn't, deemed satisfied by the king's response, then he should be standing by his wife after all the allegations, unless, they're not true. So first up, huge point that has been brought up with this, Meghan referring to it as unconscious bias and not racism. Well, that's a new narrative, isn't it? For the past few years since Oprah, it was always racism. If you remember, it was all of the interviews, all of the documentaries, everything they've done. They were hounded out of the UK due to racism in the royal family. It was racism why they accepted the Ripple of Hope award. They have always said that Meghan was treated differently, she wasn't given help, and they always made it sound like it was because of Meghan being biracial, that she was never accepted. They even turned it on the UK public. It was only recently this year in January when we had a very befuddled looking Tom Bradby when Harry turned around and said, "No, I've never said my family are racist." You saw Tom's face, those of you who watched it. He was like, "Well, you did, and you've repeated it several times. Did you actually hear me or my wife say that?" Yes. Yes, your voice, your mouth moving. Yes, we all saw it on Oprah. And the fact that you've kept your mouth shut for the last few years and you've only just now called it unconscious bias. So the fact that Meghan in this letter has included that goes to show if this correspondence was back from then, and she said that there was no malice as well. She said apparently in her response that she knows that there was no malice intended by the person that was just perhaps wondering which parent Archie might take after. Can you imagine Oprah sitting at home reading that? This has obviously done Harry and Meghan's credibility no favours, especially with the black community, the fact that you dial in back on your accusations and claims of racism. Many people that felt, sympathy for them or empathy due to their own experiences are like, it either happened or it didn't happen. That's not the sort of thing you throw at someone lightly and then go, "Oh, well, no, not actually, not really, just kidding." Second point, why has this correspondence only happened after Oprah? Why not before, when Harry said that they tried to have conversations with the family that they were unhappy? Why not at the time? If they were so offended by that person, would you not turn around and say to that family member, "Actually, that's offended me, I don't agree with it"? What about when Megxit was announced and the royal family had all of the conversations, the Sandringham summit? No, you hang on to it, and then 2 weeks away from the king's coronation, you then decide to say, "Oh, we did have some correspondence." Tell me who is the only person that would gain from this. Well, they thought that they would gain from it, but it backfired. My third point, after the big drama with the Thomas Markle "Dear Daddy" letter, "You broke my heart into a million pieces," do you think that Charles is stupid enough to actually write a letter? Whilst I believe there might have been correspondence, I'd imagine it would probably be more securely on email, not sending a letter that can get lost in the post or handed to 5 friends and given an exclusive to People magazine. Fourth point, why I think it came from Camp Montecito is, as I said, there's only one person that is going to benefit from this story. Why would the palace release this sort of information on Prince Louis's birthday and then obviously on the Queen's birthday, 2 weeks away from the coronation? They wouldn't. The article is completely favourable to Meghan because it paints Meghan out to be innocent, that she tried to reach out. She tried to be reasonable. It was just bad king didn't respond satisfactorily. But it does reek of their level of immaturity, their vengefulness, and their complete inability to grasp that maybe they caused a lot of the problems. So it does actually read like, when we've heard stuff coming directly from Meghan and from Harry, it has that kind of air of arrogance about it. Now, needless to say, this all blew up in Meghan's face. It backfired. If they thought that they were going to get people suddenly on side with them, it did not go down well. Everyone saw through it. It's too hot on the heels from her "Dear Daddy" stunt. It reeks of Montecito. So people are just not believing that this was leaked on Prince Louis's birthday by accident. The backlash was instant, and the fact that reporters called them out where the leak had come from, 24 hours later, Meghan's team have turned around and said, "It wasn't us." Now, naturally, it was their favourite mouthpiece, Omid Scobie. The Duchess of Sussex is going about her life in the present, not thinking about correspondence from 2 years ago related to conversations from 4 years ago. Pause. So she is saying in that statement that conversations or correspondence did in fact happen. Any suggestion otherwise is frankly ridiculous. We encourage tabloid media and various royal correspondents to stop the exhausting circus that they alone are creating. Hypocrisy is legendary with these two. The circus that royal reporters and media outlets are creating, it has been a non-stop circus since that woman got involved with Harry. Yes, I just called her that woman. She has done, from the paparazzi stunts, from all of the drama, from everything to do when they got married, the arguments, the A-lister wedding. We've got the circus that they created, all to do with Archie's birth. We've got the continuous string of court cases, Meg's Megxit, how they announced Megxit. They literally threw that at the royal family with 10 minutes notice. These two have lived for the drama. They have created the drama. And now to turn around and say, that's absolutely exhausting. It more than likely is exhausting being you. Being so focused on doing nothing but trying to wreak revenge and havoc on a family that you were only really with for a matter of months. Meghan talks about being part of the royal family like she did a couple of decades of service. Let's not forget, it was 72 engagements. Over the course of 2 years, she managed to spread out that really tough work ethic that she's got, you know, hit the ground running. It's just completely laughable that anyone in their press office could go, oh, this is a great statement to put out. They are a circus of their own creation. Now, it's not only the palace that has threatened the Telegraph to tread carefully. Meghan has also sent legal letters to the Telegraph for, I guess it's a way to make them look innocent. No, I don't believe it. Do I think that Meghan would send a legal letter to threaten someone from running a story that she planted? Yes, we've seen it before. If you remember, Harry and Meghan were threatening to sue anyone that said they had anything to do with finding freedom. We even in the court case to do with, funnily enough, the Dear Daddy letter, the first one that she dropped, Harry embarrassingly had emails revealed to the public where it said, we need to make it look like that we had nothing to do with this. So yes, Meghan sending a legal letter absolutely proves nothing. It is a case of the boy that cried wolf. And as one of the people that I follow on Twitter clearly points out, it took 24 hours for Meghan to get this retraction in place. Harry and Meghan are very, very quick to find stories that they do not like on social media or that have been released into the press, and they get their lawyers on it straight away. The fact that Meghan let this story run for 24 hours makes me believe she wanted it to run for it to cause maximum damage. Meghan could have said there was no correspondence just to shut the story down. The fact that in her statement she said, yes, there was correspondence, but I'm moving on with my life, I don't care about it. You're like, bollocks. Meghan has been caught lying so many times that, as I said, it's the boy that cried wolf. You can't believe anything that she says. And I just think this story would have only benefited one person, or so she thought. And it feels like to me that Meghan is trying to ensure that there is absolutely no chance of a reconciliation between Harry and Charles. Harry is still going to this coronation, and it's funny how this story came up, which is going to create more friction just in time when Harry has just RSVP'd. I can't see why Harry is going. It's said that he's going to be sat at the back. He's going to be kept out of the way. I think he genuinely wants to be there for his father. I think that he is beginning to wind down the fact that I've got this all off my chest. But Meghan, being a narcissist, she cannot risk Harry having any sort of relationship with his family. That's why she isolated him so quickly. My gut feeling is that Harry and Meghan are no longer playing for the same team anymore. I'm not the only one, because funnily enough, I saw this pop up as well. I do not believe that they are in tune with each other anymore. It's very much all about brand Meghan, and because of Harry becoming a laughingstock, he has become toxic to her brand. Meghan is a typical narcissist, and she must control the narrative at all times. She needs to control if and when she chooses to break up with him. She will ditch him, absolutely. I'm 100% certain she's definitely going to dump him at some point, but only when she's got all of her ducks lined up. She will have the narrative set and ready to go, and she's not going to risk any outside interference if Harry does start mending bridges with any members of his family, including the king. And she's certainly, definitely not going to risk Harry being the one to jump ship first. This is why this story has just magically, after 3 years, been pulled out of thin air. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this one, guys, and I will speak to you soon. Take care for now. Bye.